Scentland, the land of scent. Hello and welcome everybody, Chris back with another fragrance review coming to you from this good old familiar site to many of my subscribers and friends out there who are following me from the beginning or for years. They will recognize the setting. I come here in this good old living room, dining room, now snooker room, in order to review a fragrance if it really deserves this setting and if it fits this setting, and that's very much the case today. Okay, so we are talking about the pure and utter world-class masterpiece released by the designer house of Yves Saint Laurent back in 2002 under the creative direction of Tom Ford at the time. And I have to say, Yves Saint Laurent at the time, I think until 2003, he was still very much active in what his brand, what his maison was doing. And Tom Ford was the creative director at the time, and he left his mark in a very, very positive way. And one of his masterful creations of his time at Yves Saint Laurent was this fragrance, launched in the year of 2002, and was simply called M7 because it was number 7 in the line. And that's the new bottle, the recent, latest bottle of M7. It used to come in this sort of dark red, long, very attractive bottle. I don't know why they changed it, although I think similarly to Aramis, Yves Saint Laurent sort of relaunched its old classics like Pour Homme or like Jazz or like M7, and they did it in this type of scenario, which is nice, heavy quality and all that. The only thing I don't like about it is that I cannot carry it around with me, so I use a little decant that I carry around with me, not because the fragrance is not well performing and long lasting, but I love to have this fragrance in my pocket, and that's the only way that I can carry it, if I'm able to decant it and put it in my pocket. But it works, so no complaints there. Otherwise, a great, nice, heavy glass bottle, okay? And first and foremost, it's still available, okay? Disappeared for a while. I was kind of worried because I saw it disappear, and I wasn't sure what's going on. And as the classy ones, Jazz and Pour Homme, were coming on back, I didn't see M7 at first. I saw M7 Oud Absolu, which is a different fragrance. That is also still out there, but it's a much newer one. This one, M7, again, in this current form, it's still very much out there. I just bought it recently in Vienna. Okay, so what about the fragrance? First of all, it lists the notes, okay, the main notes of this fragrance. It lists it right there. And it says mandarin, bois de oud, patchouli, cyst, and myrrh. So, what do I get of this fragrance? And I have to spray it, ladies and gentlemen. And here we come back to the setting. I'm going to tell you about that later on, or even right now, because as soon as the smell hits me, it all comes together like pieces of a tremendously nice, beautiful puzzle, okay? For years, first of all, I was not a real fan of oud ever. So when this came out, a creation by Jacques Cavalier and Alberto Morillas, by the way, so two giants of the fragrance industry, two giant parfumeurs, noses were working on this. So Tom Ford really made sure that he brings something to the market that is of high quality. And at the time, the use of oud, agarwood, basically, the very expensive Mid-Eastern type of wood that was not really common in perfumery up until M7. It was introduced with this fragrance, basically. So there you come, not only Alberto Morillas and Jacques Cavalier, but Tom Ford's bravery that he showed many times again and again, especially in his early days, like for example at Gucci with Gucci #1. It was something that was really a milestone, something groundbreaking, something that had tremendous presence in the market. Okay, so Tom Ford really had the balls to, and not only that, because not only the smell and the introduction of oud, but you remember the marketing campaign with the nude guy, and it was very, very, the provocation was high and was very, very in your face, but on purpose and done in a styleful way. Like, it reminded me at the time much like the late great Gianni Versace. He used to, just throw things into people's faces and deal with it, but again in a tasteful and nice, sophisticated manner still. So M7, yeah, there's so many facets to this fragrance. Tom Ford, the bravery, the two great parfumeurs, Jacques Cavalier and Alberto Morillas. The time of the market, 2002, was still a very much a time when designers wanted to try something new, wanted to bring something new to the table up until 2008. I think that was very much the case. Almost the first decade of the 2000s was very much about that until Paco Rabanne introduced that horrid fragrance. I'm not going to talk about that. So M7 was right at the middle of this experimental period in the fragrances industry, and Tom Ford was very brave. And coming back to oud, the smell was very much special, caught the attention of people immediately. Some hated it, some loved it. It found a new market, and it opened a tremendous door for niche fragrances and for basically almost each and every designer as well to follow and introduce oud also. Okay, today oud is everywhere. At the time, oud was nowhere. It was in here. Okay, so chapeau. But I was not a fan of oud. At the beginning, I thought, wow, this is something special. I thought, wow, this is. I loved the fact that it's something groundbreakingly new. But as time went by and more oud fragrances came onto the market, I kind of stepped back, and also the smell wasn't really of oud itself. It wasn't really appealing to me that much. And again, as more and more oud fragrances were being introduced, I was stepping back and I said, no, that's not my game. And up until recently, I remember being in Paris last year, and I tried this in Sephora on the Champs-Élysées, and it had a bit of an appeal to me at the time. It was February, so perfect weather for this, but I still didn't go for the purchase. I still felt that it's turning something in my stomach. It's very interesting. And then, just a few weeks ago, I started to, for some reason, I can't explain, I started to want this fragrance. I don't know why. Something in me, and it happens from time to time, says, I wake up in the morning and I have the feeling, I'm craving almost the smell of this fragrance. I want it, I want to smell it, I want to wear it, I want to experience it, I want to give it another chance, I want to relive in it. That type of scenario. I don't know why that is, but it comes like this, all over a sudden. So I went for it in Vienna, and I bought it, and ever since I'm just mesmerized by it. I like it. This is such an utter beauty, oh my goodness. And you know what? I love to wear it in the summer as well. Daytime, nighttime. You know why? Because the mandarin here gives it all the way through, but especially in the first hour, a playful, easygoing aspect that is not very much present in many oud fragrances. They tend to sit on your shoulder and drag you down because they're so dark and heavy. Here, it has a playfulness, and the fragrance itself is developing, at least on my skin, different every time I apply it. Sometimes it's more so even powdery. Sometimes it's really dark and smoky. Sometimes it's the mandarin is dancing on top for a longer while. Sometimes it's really woody. Sometimes the patchouli is really present. It depends on a lot of things, skin chemistry, time of the day, and maybe season. But still, it is a very versatile fragrance and very interesting to follow its dry down, because it has this tendency to be able to surprise you. And overall, it's a what I would still say it's a légère fragrance. It's not. I don't think it's that heavy. It has a Frenchness about it that keeps it from being this typical Arabian heavy on your shoulder type of oud scenario. Okay, and that's why I like it. That's why the oud here is finally, after all these years, not turning my stomach anymore. But I really like this. It's by now it has really become one of my favorite fragrances, and not only because of the smell and the performance, all that, because the performance, the longevity, sillage, projection are all perfect with this. But also, and here we're going to come back, and I'm going to close the circle that I mentioned. It's kind of a closure here, because I was smelling this. Smelling it, and it reminds me of something, although I had no memories attached to it. I never wore it before. I tried it a few times, didn't like it, never touched it, but somehow then I was craving it, and then I smelled it, and it doesn't remind me of something. What is it? What is it? And the other day I was in the room and I opened it up just from the bottle, and then, Heureka! I knew what it is reminding me of. It reminds me of, and grab your seats, ladies and gentlemen. It reminds me of the fantastically delicious pea soup that my mother was cooking and serving in this very room, actually, for decades, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. In this very room, when it used to be a dining room, we had a big dining table instead of the snooker table. And she used to serve us this fantastic, nice, very dense, very almost heavy pea soup. It wasn't a summery pea soup. It was full of herbs, and not only the pea soup, but the whole composition, the whole blend was so delicious and so has such a character. And the smell, not always, but sometimes the smell of M7 reminds me of that. There's only one fragrance that reminds me of food of my mom, and that's Fougère Bengale from Parfum d'Empire. That reminds me very much of the chicken curry that she used to cook. So this is how this becomes not only a great smell, but extremely personal to me, just like Fougère Bengale. Extremely personal, because sometimes, again, not always, sometimes when I smell this, it reminds me of home, of my mother, of the pea soup, of the surroundings, of the banter, of the good times that we had. So when I wear this, it gives me tremendous fulfillment. I wore this for a lunch in Vienna with some great couple of, I don't know, 4 or 5 friends that we went into a fish restaurant, and this was just greeting me with its whiffs and its sensation. It was absolute. I felt, again, it felt like closure. I love this fragrance to bits, and that's it. It became a very, very personal fragrance that I'm going to carry along as long as I'm alive. Okay, so thanks very much. That was Chris with the review of M7 by the great late genius Yves Saint Laurent. Merci beaucoup, and gonna see you soon. I'll leave you with this fantastic setting here. Bye bye.